Welcome to the Agency Trailblazer podcast. You are joining a conversation today with me, that's Mr. Lee Jackson, and today we have somebody with two first names. It's Adrian. Tobey, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm okay, Tobey, or Adrian. I wasn't sure which.
It's okay. It's interchangeable, so if you mess up, I will respond.
Do you also respond to or you and stuff like that as well? No?
Yeah.
Hey, dude. Hey.
I get bro a lot.
Bro. That's very Californian. I know you're not from California.
Well, I went to university with like a bunch of Americans who are mostly from like Jersey and California, so
that explains it.
It all comes up, and we all lived in a house together at university, so it must have just rubbed off.
I can now literally picture like every single American movie of like people living together in university.
It was like Animal House, if you've ever seen that one.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's amazing.
That was my university experience.
So nothing like Bad Neighbors?
No, nothing, no.
Ah, what a shame.
Yeah.
No, that's hilarious. So, if you don't know who Adrian is, he is from a special company or application or WordPress plugin, whatever you want to call it, called Groundhog, which you can find out more information by checking out groundhog.io, and that's 2 G's on hog. But always check the show notes for links. So before we deep dive into kind of how this all got started and also your entry into the WordPress world, can we just find a little bit about you personally? We know you've got two first names, but it would be wonderful to find out maybe what your favorite drink is, favorite color, maybe where in the world you're from, and maybe even a random fact that you think not many people would know about you, and that will allow us all to warm to you, and then we'll find out your story. How's about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I'm from Toronto, Canada. The general like WordPress community seems to like mostly revolve in Europe or the United States, but there's actually a significant community, at least here in Toronto and in Vancouver as well. So I'm super happy to be part of like the Canadian WordPress community. I think that's super cool. There's not a ton of like WordPress products coming out of Canada, so I'm happy to kind of like push that movement a little bit forward. I went to university. I went to the University of Toronto. Big surprise there, for computer science originally, until I dropped out. I never completed that degree. I dropped out after my third year to kind of go full bore into the whole WordPress thing and the WordPress community. And I did that relatively long. I dropped out when I was 21. I'm currently 22. So this is only last year. It feels so much longer since then.
That's insane.
So I dropped out to go full bore into Groundhog and kind of get this thing off the ground. But before I did that, a lot of people don't know that I did not get my start kind of in WordPress. I actually got my start in Infusionsoft. I'm not sure if you're familiar what Infusionsoft is.
Well, it's now called Keep, but it was Confusionsoft, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So it's called Keep. They did a whole rebrand thing, and I left a little bit just before that rebrand, actually. But I was an Infusionsoft certified partner. I got certified when I was 18. Because I was working in a digital marketing agency, and I was doing a lot of their Infusionsoft stuff. Because, you got to pay the bills when you go to university. So I was doing a lot of their Infusionsoft stuff, and I was getting kind of that thing rolling. And I just started experiencing like the same pain points over and over and over and again, implementing Infusionsoft for all of their clients, which eventually led to Groundhog. But while I was doing Infusionsoft, I have another plugin, actually. It's called FormLift. It is a form builder, of which there are currently many for WordPress, but it was specifically designed to be built for the Infusionsoft community. So it would allow you to connect WordPress to Infusionsoft through the web form module relatively effectively and efficiently, and it did moderately well, and that was kind of like my first introduction to the WordPress community, which is where I actually found my calling and really fell in love with. And I was doing that through my my second and my third year of university. So, yeah.
So basically getting distracted, or was this kind of classed as homework?
Well, so the kind of point where I decided, I'm not going to go back to university, I'm just going to call it, is I was working on FormLift way more than I was working on my homework or studying, and I'm sure many, many, many people, who are like entrepreneurs at heart can relate. They just you see the emails from people, who download and are buying your stuff, right? And that feels super good. You want to spend as much time as possible kind of making those people happy and getting those emails you made a sale, right? Because that just feels so awesome. It feels way more awesome to invest your time and your knowledge and your skill into that project than figuring out what the runtime of log n squared is, right? In university. So I
you're not selling university to me right now. So.
No. So I failed my first course ever in my third year, and it was CSC 236, I think. It was a second year course that I was doing my third year because I was doing school part-time because I was working at the same time. And I kind of just like decided, you know what, it's gonna like, at this point doing part-time school, I would not be finished till like, I want to say 2023 or 2024 at the rate I was going. And I'm just like, I can, invest that same amount of time, that same amount of money, that same amount of energy into a product that's going to work for me instead of reinvesting that into the system that just doesn't really give a damn. So I kind of called it, and I'm like, all right, we're just going to go full bore into this, and I'm going to invest in my time and just learn the good old fashioned way through Stack Overflow.
I hear. Now, Stack Overflow is literally how most websites get built, I think, isn't it?
It has to be.
It's actually amazing. Actually, just digressing ever so slightly, I've never asked a question on Stack Overflow because somebody else has always asked the question.
I've never had to ask a question either.
I've yet to meet someone who's actually posted a question. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and there's like the WordPress specific Stack Overflow. There's like a whole sub.
Is there?
There's just like a whole like a subreddit for Stack Overflow just for WordPress.
You can tell I've hardly coded for a year then, can't you? Because I've not had to Google it much. The more the company grows, the more I'm getting involved in like creating content and everything else, and everyone else is doing the development. So everyone else is on Stack Overflow. They could literally put a paywall on that and just cream all that money in. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it, if they did that?
I'd pay it. Like
I would too.
I can't do it without them. So.
Exactly. Well, on that then, because like, how did you get into development anyway? So with Formlift and that, is this as a result of university? Did you get someone else to build it, or did you just go ahead and teach yourself?
As most things are, necessity is the mother of all invention. Doing Infusionsoft work eventually required, people wanted WordPress websites, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the web forms in old Infusionsoft. Now, Keep.
Nope.
But they were like, straight out of 1996. Like they looked awful. They weren't responsive, and they just didn't really work all that well. So like opt-ins were suffering for these companies because we just couldn't, we'd slap the web form column on the site, and people would look at that and be like, this is not a trustworthy company. It doesn't like, if I'm opting into something, I'm going to get spam, right? Sometimes like style does matter a little bit. And especially if you got a beautiful website and you got like this, frankly, like disgusting looking form, it's just not going to work. So out of necessity, I started just, experimenting with some JavaScript, some HTML code, and built like an MVP plugin and installed that, whipped it up. And I had something that made Infusionsoft forms look nice. And then I kind of shared what I did on their Facebook group at the time. And I'm like, hey guys, would anybody be interested in like using this? And it kind of just like blew up from there. I mean, I say blew up, but like the Infusionsoft community is only so big, so I can only get so much like market share of that community. So blew up is like 1,000 people.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty good. If the whole their entire market size is like 30,000 or 40,000 businesses at this point. So like, and all of those people have already pretty much figured out their solutions or whatever. So for all of the new people that come on, I was getting like those people who just wanted a quick fix. So I just started like adding more and more stuff to Formlift. Like I integrated payments, and I integrated, what else did I integrate?
You
like
did signatures, autoresponder, file upload.
Oh yeah, you're looking at
saved entries. Oh, it's just all from memory, man. Form limitation, spam protection. I am totally on your website.
Yeah. So I started adding all of those features. I borrowed the Easy Digital Downloads business model.
That's a good
idea. I decided to do like an all access pass thing, or you can buy extensions or add-ons to Formlift individually. The most successful product that I ever launched was that in order to, because Infusionsoft people have money, and I was giving away Formlift for free because I'm just like a generous and nice guy. But I just wasn't seeing like a lot of return on my investment in time. So what I did was I added a credit to Formlift. So in the bottom right hand of the form, if you put it on your website, it would be like powered by Formlift. And people didn't like that. Or they don't like it. They install and they say, oh, it says powered by Formlift. How do I remove it? And I'm like, well, you can buy me coffee or buy me dinner, and I'll give you something to remove it. And that was the most successful product. That's like a $20 one-time purchase. So that's the most successful thing that I ever brought. Because FormLift on its own, like the free plugin that we give away on the .org, is like super powerful as is.
Yeah. So you're leading with value, but you're also adding other stuff that developers like me would want, like conditional fields, just that add-on alone. And if I was just going to grab that as a one-off because it solves a problem for me as a developer without having to do anything, then I'm going to be grabbing that. It just makes total sense.
Yeah, so
I did not know any of this about FormLift. This is absolutely fascinating. So just to recap, you're in university. You're living what was the film we said?
Animal House.
Animal House. So you're living Animal House for real life. You're kind of 2 years in, and the bit I'm a bit confused is how were you also working with Infusionsoft? Was that like work experience, or were you actually working and doing university part time?
So I was doing night school at university and working full-time hours in the day for a digital marketing agency.
Okay, and then working on the Infusionsoft product. So you're actually in Infusionsoft. You're with the digital. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. So now you mentioned early on, and I wrote down because I really wanted to ask you. Now, I'm aware of a lot of people that have used Infusionsoft. I've been in agencies in the past where we've had to put Infusionsoft out for them, and Confusionsoft is definitely a word that we all used a lot, just behind closed doors because we'd find it a bit frustrating. But you said there was a few common issues that you felt clients were having, which I presume was what, and we'll go down that line in a minute, which what led to Groundhog. But could you just share like a few of the common issues that you were experiencing or clients were experiencing with a big product like Infusionsoft?
Well, off the bat, cost. Infusionsoft, I mean, it's a little bit less expensive and a little bit more affordable now because they rebranded to Keep and they have like a whole new product based around that. But the legacy Infusionsoft, the one that I grew up with and you're familiar with, was like a minimum of like $300 US a month. And sometimes that's like a big pill to swallow for Canadian companies who are like solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, and they're kind of just like doing their best to turn a profit in the first place. And especially if you don't see like ROI on your investment after 6 months, it's an even harder pill to swallow. It's like, all right, I already gave this company, over like $1,500, and I'm not seeing like my bottom line go up. What's up? What's the deal? So that was a big pain point. The second one is being in an agency. We built all of the stuff for them ahead of time, right? But then there would come the point where, all right, well, we're off the payroll. We are now handing the project over to you, and it is now on your expectation to like figure out how to use the damn thing and continue implementing. And, business owners, especially if they only have a small team, like they're busy running their business, working in the business. They don't got the time or the willpower to learn Infusionsoft and like log in every day and check the stats and do all that stuff. It's like totally above their head. You essentially need at that point a dedicated person to do all of that for you, or like have some sort of agency on a retainer, which we didn't do at the time. So that was another big pain point. It's just like they couldn't use it after the handoff, right? Yeah. Basically, we would have to build it so that it was set it and forget it, but there's no real such thing because products change, sentiments change, business model changes, pricing model changes, employees change out, you have a new sales guy, you don't have a new sales guy, or you fire a sales guy, you have a team switch up. Business is fluid and marketing is fluid, and you kind of just like need to be involved in order to make it work consistently. So if we did a set it, forget it, they'd be back in a month being like, okay, this has changed my business. And I'm like, okay, well, this just isn't a great user experience or a customer experience for our company, not necessarily Infusionsoft, but like, it looked bad on us that they had to keep coming back and they couldn't do it themselves because we were pushing and recommending Infusionsoft. Not that Infusionsoft is a bad product. Infusionsoft is a great product.
I agree.
If you have the know-how, the resources, and the team to implement it and use it effectively. Right? Pain point number 3 really just came down to complexity. Like Infusionsoft is a very versatile tool. But when you have extremely versatile tools, a lot of people fall into the trap of making it so complicated that they are unable to actually make it effective. So for example, we had a couple clients who like, because it had all this versatility, they created like this super huge mind map of like lines going everywhere, and it was just like super difficult to build out and complex to like look at and understand. Like if I handed you that same mind map, you would have no idea what's going on. If you handed it to me, I'd know because I built it, but I couldn't like transfer that knowledge easily to someone else. So if they ever went to another provider, they'd look at that and be like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. And the problem is, if you don't know what's going on, if you're looking at and you can't immediately recognize what the point of that automation is, what are the chances that your customer understands what's going on either?
Exactly.
Right? So if you can't follow the steps to get from point A to point B, can your customer follow the steps to get from point A to point B? Probably not.
I now understand why the flows are the way your flows are inside a Groundhog.
Yeah, and so I guess we'll get to that in a second.
Because you literally go through a step-by-step with the conditionality, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because I was having a look at that. But before we do then so spoiler alert, we've just had like 3 common issues. I presume some of these issues, therefore, spurred you towards Groundhog. Can you just kind of rewind a little bit to the beginning of the inception, I guess, of Groundhog and how you went about doing it?
Well, I mean, so it really came down to, I had Forlift, I had WordPress experience, WordPress development experience at that point. I've been in Fusionsoft for like 5 years at that point. So like I knew how marketing automation, like CRM, was supposed to work, at least at a very high level. And I'm like, well, what if we just built it, for WordPress? Because our clients, like the people who are like, I was still at the agency, our clients, they were comfortable to log into WordPress, write their blog posts, create the products, manage WooCommerce and stuff like that. That stuff they were comfortable with because they needed to log into that in order to like see the revenue report at the end of the day. So that's something they were already comfortable with. What they were not comfortable with was going to Infusionsoft, logging in there and doing stuff. So if we were able to transfer that experience to WordPress, not only would they be comfortable logging into WordPress, but they would also be comfortable managing their emails, their CRM, sending out broadcast emails, stuff like that. So that was kind of like the main thing. It's like, what if we just transferred the whole experience to WordPress, and then when we offloaded them, they only needed to log into one place, and if it looks like WordPress, smells like WordPress, and acts like WordPress, they will be comfortable interacting with it and operating it without, fear of like, I don't know what I'm doing. So that was really like the main inception point, and I'm just like scribbling things on a napkin at the Fox in the field down the street. It's like, all right, what if we did this? And then from that point, I'm like, all right, guys, I'm out, agency stuff. Like, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna go work on this thing. I went to my grandfather and I did the friends and family seed round to get a little starting capital. And I'm very fortunate and grateful that he was able to provide that. Mm-hmm. I hired myself a single employee, Drumit, who's working across the room from me right now. And essentially we just started like building. So I personally built out the MVP in a couple months. And then we got it loaded up on the repo, the .org. And I just said, hey, listen, this thing now exists. We have marketing automation and email marketing and CRM for WordPress. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of just where it started. It started in August of 2018 was when I started scribbling things on a napkin. And then I'm like, all right, let's just do it. Let's just build it and see what happens. It doesn't exist yet, right? Like a solution that's like comparable to Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign or HubSpot does not currently exist. Like the closest thing that existed was Zero BS CRM, but that had no marketing automation or email marketing component. It was just the CRM and sales and invoicing and stuff.
So how did you start to market it? I mean, you've gone from a napkin to within 2 months you've got your inception, you've got your money from family, God bless family, you got your first employee, etc. How are you then marketing it? Was it natural marketing because you were already providing the free version on WordPress, which led to your growth? Because that's very similar to, say, video user manuals from Troy Dean. He's got the free plugin, and then the actual plugin premium version grew as a result of that. Or were you marketing in other ways?
I have learned many lessons about marketing since I started this. Even, I develop marketing software, but I am by no means the world's leading authority. I know a lot, but I certainly learned a lot of lessons about how to market a software product since then. So the way that I started was I went to BuiltWith, and I paid them a ton of money and exported a bunch of lists of people who have MailChimp or Infusionsoft or companies that are known to use those products. I uploaded those as a retargeting audience to Facebook and then gave Facebook $3,000 for literally zero return on investment.
Oh, it sucks so much, doesn't it? It sucks so much.
That was attempt number one.
Do you want a hug? Just because I've done this as well, by the way. And I still kick myself now and again.
That was a painful lesson.
Oh, mate.
I have to admit.
Thanks for being honest.
So that didn't work.
Okay.
So I immediately stopped doing that because that just...
Yeah, and there's a lesson in that for everyone listening. When something doesn't work, please stop. I don't know who said it, but there's something along the lines of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I unfortunately was that guy, though. I kept paying on Facebook ads and then realized I was doing it all wrong. But anyway, carry on, mate.
Do you want to know the irony in the whole thing, though?
Yes, I do.
The ad we were running was we had a picture of like money in a toilet because, why throw money away to software as a service companies, for not getting any ROI when you could use like our free product, right? Instead and get like the same results or better. And so the irony of the whole thing is you're running this ad with like money going down a toilet. And I was literally just like chucking money down a toilet running this Facebook ad.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the first thing I did. Then that just didn't work. So I cut that out quickly after like a couple months, I think. Next. And then from that point on, I've only been doing word of mouth. All marketing that I've done. I mean, I met you through word of mouth. I met like Michael Short, who created the Masterminds group through word of mouth. I met Jonathan Denwood, who I currently co-host his WP Tonic podcast through word of mouth. And that's the way that I've just been doing. So what I did initially after that initial kind of like epic Facebook failure, I just sent out an email to every WordPress-based podcast that I could find. And I'm like, hey, I got this thing. I'm not sure if you like accept requests for podcasts, but I'd love to be on yours if you'd have me. This is what I do. This is my company. Here are some assets and here are some reviews that I were able to cobble up from existing users. Can I come? And from the maybe 25 or so emails that I sent out to various podcasts, I got maybe like 5 responses, but that was enough to get me started. And then other podcasters started reaching out to me, which was kind of cool, to come on their podcast and start talking about it once they listened to the other podcasts and me talking about it. And from there, it's kind of just been like a snowball effect where I'm just starting to meet like so many cool people within the WordPress community.
You mean me, don't you? I'm a cool person.
Pardon?
You mean me, don't you? It's like cool people.
Exactly.
Like just checking. Yeah,
Trailblazer over here, right? So
okay.
Yeah, and it's just kind of been like a snowball effect since then. I've just been meeting like, a ton of like people way smarter and more successful than myself, and kind of just been like totally mooching off their list.
Well, at least you're honest about that as well.
I will be,
totally
blunt and honest about it, and I am extremely grateful, and I would not be able to have done it without, people reaching out or me reaching out and, getting some help from some very like influential people within the community.
The way I found out about you was actually through one of our clients. So one of our clients said, I'm thinking of a what CRM system to apply to the new build that we're doing for them. And they were like, I've seen this Groundhog. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of Groundhog. So I went and checked it out. This is a few months ago. And they were also looking at ActiveCampaign and everything. And I noticed as well on your website that you had like a ActiveCampaign versus Groundhog comparison. Nice move. Get it for free versus $169 a month. But so we went through that and we ended up downloading the free version of it as well and going through it. So the client hasn't made a decision as yet because it's one of those, those projects that go on for a while, which is fine because we've got to go through the design process and all that sort of stuff first. But when it comes to that decision, that's been very interesting for us because normally we are trying to decide between, a software as a service product, and our big questions are, can we integrate this? Will it talk with Zapier or Integromat or whatever? Can we, what can we do to communicate between the two? And I was quite surprised by the idea of Groundhog because that literally brought everything inside. I could do email, I could set up my email templates, I can do my email marketing, I can do my automation. You then also had a whole load of add-ons as well. So I believe I could integrate with WooCommerce if I wanted to start selling products. I could integrate with Easy Digital Downloads as well if I wanted to do membership. So it's literally keeping everything inside of the WordPress ecosphere. I don't know, I just made a word up, but that sounds good though. Let's just leave that in. That's fine by me. Have you found any pushback then from people? You're a new company, it's a new product, it's kind of a new concept where everything's inside of your website, which means you're kind of obviously you guys have got support, you offer support and all that, but at the same time clients must be a bit scared. I've got to look after this. At least if I use ActiveCampaign, I can call them up and shout at them when something's not working. Have you had any pushback, or has it been quite well embraced?
Of course, there's always, whenever there's a new idea, there are always naysayers and like, but we're responsible for education. So we actually have a whole article dedicated to, is it a good idea to self-host my marketing automation? And there are pros and cons to each one. So like, for example, the cons of like software as a service, and we're upfront about this, and we're not like trying to hide the truth or anything, but like, for example, the cons of software as a service is that you own nothing, right? So if they want to, if they find out, like, for example, a lot of those companies are based in the United States, and marijuana is illegal in still many of those states, and it's not legal countrywide. So a lot of those companies will say, hey, listen, if you're doing like cannabis-based products, then you are not allowed to be on our platform. So if they find out that you're doing cannabis-based products, they're just going to shut your account down. your list, your emails, everything, and there's no recourse. Right? So you own literally nothing. You are essentially just a renter. You are renting space on their platform for a certain period of time until you stop paying the bill, and then you're kind of like out of luck. While on a self-hosted platform, I can't go and shut you down. I'm not responsible because it's self-hosted. It's open source. It's on your WordPress website. So wherever the laws where you are apply, then that's totally cool, and I'm cool with that, right? So you get to own your, a lot of the. As your business grows, a lot of people tell you, well, you got to own your tech stack, right? You got to own your platform, because if you don't own your platform, then you're basically just at the mercy of the companies that you're renting space from. If on the flip side, if you own that tech stack, right? If you do decide to self-host so that you're not renting space, you become responsible for that, for self-hosting, and you become responsible when things go wrong, and you become responsible for scaling and all of that stuff. So you have to make the decide. Is it more important to me to own my platform, or is it more important to me that I don't be responsible for that platform? Right? So we're upfront with the decisions that people have to make for deciding whether they want to go with like ActiveCampaign or if they want to go with Groundhog. I think we make a good case for self-hosting because a lot of people like the fact that they get to own their data. Like their bill doesn't scale as their contact list scales. Like ActiveCampaign can get really expensive really quickly above like 5,000 contacts, and you start shelling out a lot of money monthly.
Oh yeah.
But we don't have that with Groundhog. You can have 1 million contacts and your bill will still be the exact same, right? You just pay the yearly licensing fee and like call it a day.
Well, if you've got 1 million contacts, I imagine your database and your security and everything would have to go up a little bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, you'd have to scale your hosting. You'd have to scale your hosting accordingly. But if you like have a WooCommerce thing on your site, you have to do that anyway, right? So that's a common conversation that we have as well. It's like, well, will this like slow down and crash my website? It's like, hey, listen, man, as your business grows, you're just going to need to scale up your hosting. Like you can't expect to run $1 million business on $3 a month hosting.
Nope.
Like you just can't expect to do that. If you're doing like 20 orders a day, get hosting that's going to be able to support 20 orders a day, right? Don't go get cheap hosting. And if you load up Groundhog on good hosting, then you're going to have good results, and that's kind of just the end of it. So that's a conversation that we have to have with people. They're like, it's going to slow down my site or not? No, it's not. If you have appropriate hosting for the amount of traffic and the amount of emails that you're doing, then you're not going to have a problem. Hosting is generally a lot cheaper than paying like huge SaaS bills for like marketing automation anyway.
Yeah, because there's so many other costs built in anyway with the SaaS companies. They've got entire teams to pay, etc. They're providing all sorts of services that go beyond. They are almost like the hosting company as well, because they're hosting all of their own architecture, etc. So that's a big difference. Now, the pricing model that you've gone for then, so with Groundhog, you went for like a freemium version, which adds there's a lot of tools in there for free, which is quite impressive. How did you decide to price up everything else? How did you decide what to give away and what to charge for over the course of getting everything set up?
Again, so many lessons learned in such a short period of time.
Sure.
And I wish that what I knew now, I knew going into it. And I think it would have made getting up and running a lot easier. But I'll give you like the full rundown. So when we started, we basically copied Easy Digital Downloads. I used their product to sell my products, and I thought they had a good business model. I enjoyed being their customer, and I'm like, I'll just do what they're doing because, I don't know any better. And at the time, they had their All Access Pass thing going on. So you basically just bought the All Access Pass for like $800. And you got everything. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'll pay it, yearly fee. I'll download the extensions that I need, whatever. I got funding now from my grandfather. So it's all good. It's all gravy. So I did that. And then I noticed months later that they actually changed the way that they do their pricing. So now they have like packages that have different levels of add-ons in them, leading up to like their like coveted All Access Pass, which is like a different price now altogether.
Yeah, I think it's quite expensive now, isn't it? Yeah.
So I noticed that they did that, but I decided to like keep on trucking it with the way that I was doing it because it was working, right? I was making money. I was not profitable yet, but I was working. People enjoyed it. People liked the fact that it was kind of just like one price. But I focused at the time. I learned later from Chris Badgett from Lifter LMS, who told me
another great guy,
and I owe a lot to this guy actually. So if you don't know who Chris Badgett is, go look him up. He runs Lifter LMS, and he is just a wealth of knowledge. And I owe
previous
a lot.
Podcast guest as well.
I owe a lot of our success to him. But he told me that free is not a pricing option. Free is a distribution model. And at the time, I had free on my pricing page. So if you went to the pricing page, you actually saw a column that's like, all of these features are free, right? And then we'd show the column that's like, all right, or you can buy extensions individually, or you can buy our all access pass and just get everything, right? So that was my pricing table. And I learned that was just a terrible idea because it didn't put the focus on getting customers to actually, share the wealth and give money to my company so that we can actually continue to operate successfully as a business. It put the focus more on getting more free users from .org, and it put the focus on just expanding the user base as quickly as possible, and not the focus on actually creating revenue, which is important for a business. Would you not agree?
Amen. I always tell people you've got a responsibility to your clients to be a profitable business, so you can be there to look after them.
Absolutely, but yeah. I wasn't thinking in that mindset. I was looking at the active installation count. That was the most important thing to me at the time because I just wanted to see like explosive growth. And then I learned that, that's not necessarily like the be all and end all, right? You got to be a business and you got to be sustainable. So with recommendations from Chris Badgett and also Chris Lemma, I went to his Cabo Press event, and that was awesome. And I learned a ton of stuff all over again. I learned to actually remove like free from the pricing, and I'm now currently just using free as a distribution method.
That is so wise. I've never thought of it in that way, by the way. So
right, free is not pricing. Free is distribution. So we give away like the free product, and then pricing is solely focused around things that actually cost money.
Yeah.
And that was like a super huge lesson that I learned. I think the original question was, how did we decide to put what we did into free and what we did into paid? And this was also a big learning curve. So originally, Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign came free. Right. That's what, if you installed Groundhog for free, all of the stuff that you could expect from either of those platforms, to a degree, was available in Groundhog.
Yeah.
So basically, you could cut your Infusionsoft bill, use Groundhog for free, and you have the same level of expectation. That was free.
Yeah.
That was not sustainable. Because if we continue to do that, we actually just made this change recently, like November 1st. If we continue to do that, we would, there's no incentive at that point for people who are switching to actually provide any sort of money. And again, as you said, we have a duty and responsibility to be a business that's going to be around a long time to support our current customers. So we made the decision to actually scale back the amount of features that we offer in free. We grandfathered everybody who already had it because, we're not dicks.
Thank you. Carry on.
And we want to make sure that, we're not like screwing anybody over or like hurting anybody's business. But for new people, we scaled back the number of features. So basically there's enough to get you started, right? So you can send an email, you can create a funnel, the whole CRM. So the entirety of the CRM is free, kind of like how HubSpot offers the entirety of the CRM for free. We do the exact same thing. There's no limits on contact records, on email sent or whatever. And eventually, as the business grows, they're going to end up needing to do like cool things. Or if they have like an e-commerce component, or if they have a learning membership component like an LMS, then they're eventually going to need to share some money with us so that we can create revenue and then provide them those features. So we currently have a good, better, best pricing model, or basic plus pro, and then we have an agency license. And we put all of our integrations into the pro plan. So if you got to do like some crazy ninja stuff with Lifter LMS or WooCommerce or EDD, Zapier, AWS, whatever, all of that like super hardcore stuff is in the pro plan. You're already paying for those products. It's not an incredible expense to just pay a little bit more in order to be able to get those and kind of like make it all work. And then we have our plus plan, which is kind of the middle of the road. And now, if you don't have any integrations and you kind of just need like to expand Groundhog's feature set, then that's what you need. It has all of our add-ons in there, like sales pipeline, booking calendar, really simple payments, and a couple other notable ones. And then we have
birthday automation.
Pardon?
I have no idea what birthday automation is.
That's
on your list.
Basically, so if like someone gives you their birthday, you can send out an email on their birthday. Is basically like how that one works. And then in our basic plan, we basically just have the basics. So we have pro funnel features. So some new actions and benchmarks that you can add into the funnel builder, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about shortly. We have the SMTP integration. So if you want to set up an SMTP service, this is, there's a bunch of free SMTP add-ons. You don't need to use ours, but we support ours. So if you need support for it, we'll help you.
Yeah, I learned something about those actually as well. If you were to use some of these SMTP services, I think it was Matt mentioned in a previous podcast, the funnel, when we did the funnel podcast a couple of episodes ago, some of these don't actually allow you to route promotional emails through them. They're only meant to be for admin emails, etc., depending on the package you've bought, which surprised me. I didn't realize that. So I could have been breaking a few of the rules in the past when I was using Mautic. Just a quick FYI.
I've actually never. I'm not familiar with that. I send all of my stuff through like Amazon SES because like it's super cheap.
I think they're fine. I think it was just some of the other services. Amazon SES are fine, but you guys also provide your own SMTP service anyway, don't you, as well?
We're discontinuing that actually.
Oh, are you? Oh,
well, something I learned at Cabo Press was like, stop doing things that don't make money.
Oh, well, if that didn't make money, that makes sense. Okay. And that was ridiculously cheap as well. I think you were selling like credits at like 20,000 emails or something.
Yeah, so just stop doing things that don't make money. We built a relationship with a company called SendWP, which is run by James Laws and the guys at Ninja Forms. Super great people. And we're just like recommending them when people install Groundhog now because like that's super cheap and super cheap. It's like $9 a month for unlimited emails. The cost is spread among all of their accounts, so the company's profitable overall. And we're just happy to just like provide people with a way simpler way of sending emails than our sending service, which had to like you had to configure DNS records and like there was just a whole lot of pain points in setting up our service. So we just decided to call it. Didn't make money anyway, and so that's being discontinued in 2020.
Yeah, this is really good. I love how honest and open you're being, though, because this is valuable lessons. I think, obviously this is great for agencies who are looking for, for a solution that is not one of these paid-for solutions. So if you're an agency that's looking to host something for yourself, folks, remember, you can check it out over on groundhog.io. But what I'm loving about your openness and transparency here is that we're learning a hell of a lot of lessons from you on things that we can avoid, either as agency owners or also plugin developers, because we've got a huge amount of the WordPress community who listen in, and they've got their own products that they're developing, and that lesson there we can learn in both agency life and in a product development life. If it ain't making money, then stop doing it. Things like that are really, really valuable lessons as well.
There are 3 ways to like make a product profitable. Like charge more. It wasn't really worth it for us to charge more at that point because like they could just then go get. We have an official AWS SES integration. That's what our sending service is based off. Was people would sign up through our AWS account to send emails. But it wouldn't, the markup that it would take to be profitable, people would just go get their own. So it just really didn't make any sense unless we like went down the road of like actually building a proper service. But we don't have the resources to do that at this point. Maybe down the road, and that'd be super cool to look at in the future. But we're currently not there. So we just decided, it's not making money, and it's a huge pain point for people. Like they when they sign up for this thing, and then they can't get to work right away, and it takes like 10 days for them to be able to send an email. Like that's just a poor user experience.
Yeah.
Right. So we just decided to call it, and then SendWP offers a great user experience for the most part. So it's easy. It was an easy choice for me.
Oh, no, that's absolutely awesome. So that you're allowed to share, what are your kind of future plans over the next kind of maybe 12 months for Groundhog? Do you have new add-ons planned? Are you doing any special offers for anyone who might be interested?
So
what's coming up?
We're kind of at the end of like a big production cycle right now. Or leading up to the end of a big production cycle where we have like over like 40 add-ons and extensions and integrations at this point. And like, we don't have a big team. So we have like we built all of this stuff, and now we're kind of like at the end of the production cycle of building things. Now we're going to like focus on education. Like we have documentation that needs to be written. We have courses that need to be created. And now it's like, all right, so we have all of the software, but now we need to provide the resources and tools to help people be successful with our software. And we have that to some degree, and we have our Facebook group, and like people in our Facebook group are like super helpful with other users. And then, if someone's not getting an answer, we'll jump in there and make sure that they get an answer. But we just need a little bit more formalized education system. And we have office hours and stuff like that. But, what I'd ideally like is like someone buys the thing. Right. And then I can direct them. All right, here's Groundhog Academy or whatever. Go there, and spend like the day watching 7 videos to get started. That's ideally where I'd like to be heading in the near future. Is just making sure that the educational resources are there to support people using our stuff.
No, that's a similar journey to us. So a lot of people aren't aware that I also have another business, and we've got a product in the events industry. And one of the things we did was once we kind of got our product matured to the point where it did everything that it was meant to do really, really well, and people were happy with it. We then realized that for people that were onboarding who we weren't able to give as hands-on experience as the first clients who were helping us develop the product, we realized that we needed to get all of our education in one place. So we worked for a good few months making tons of documentations and videos, etc. A bit like your academy idea, ours was just like a knowledge base. But that's a really good idea, just having a place for people to go to go and learn those things, but also to learn techniques, because it's not just about learning the product, is it? But it's also learning good techniques for managing data or creating effective funnels, etc.
Yeah, so it's marketing automation, right? You need to know a little bit about marketing if you want to really make that work, really, really well.
Preach.
You have to know how to write good email content. You have to know how to, what is the concept of a sales funnel? A bunch of people go in the top, a few people with money come out at the bottom, right? So not everybody knows those concepts, right? A lot of people when they find us, they're like, I heard about marketing automation on a podcast, but I'm not really sure where to start. And I don't have an educational resource for those people, right? I have to send them off to like Digital Marketer or like Russell Brunson to go learn those concepts.
And then he's going to sell them ClickFunnels.
And then exactly. So, or like Ryan Dice is gonna sell them like I think they're like promoting ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft still. I don't know.
Are they? Right, fair enough.
So I don't have a resource right now to train those people, and I think offering that portion is going to help us make current customers and new customers just more successful. And when they're more successful, we're more successful. So everybody's happy.
Awesome. Mate, you've been an absolute legend. Thanks so much for your time. Folks, remember, you can check out the product over on groundhog.io. You can also check out the old product as well and have a look at that. That's over on formlift.net. All of the links are in the show notes for everything that we've discussed today, including that article that was mentioned earlier about the self-host versus automation and, self-hosted versus SaaS products. Also, a shout out to Chris at Lifter LMS and also other Chris for the Carbo Press. So we'll put all of those links as well in the show notes. Adrian, thank you so much for your time. All that is left for us to do, mate, is to thank you profusely. Thank you. And then to kick you off the show.
All right. Well, I had a great time. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of like share my journey and my experiences. And if you ever want to have me back on to talk maybe like next year about all of the cool things that I learned that I wish I knew now coming up, I'll be happy to share those too.
I promise to take you up on that. And also, last mention I forgot, you mentioned Jonathan Denwood. Please, folks, go check out the WP Tonic show as well. Do 2 shows a week, I believe. And you guys have like the news roundup. Is it Friday still you do it?
Yeah, so we do the panel on Friday, which is like like the WordPress news. And then we have an interview show on the Thursday where we find someone in the WordPress community making waves, doing cool stuff, and talking about their cool stuff.
Awesome. All right, folks, wptonic.com. I think there's a hyphen in there as well.
Yeah.
Again, links will be in the show notes. Right, I'm definitely kicking you off now. Right, go on, sling your hook.
Bye-bye.
Bye.